I gambled, and now I owe money to men you don't want to be in debt to. I come here to pay it back.
There's already a fight to win. The question is, which side you on?
One thing I've learned, if you don't draw first, you don't get to draw at all.
You know, guys, sometimes it seems like I have this reputation for not liking a lot of video games. I don't know if you guys have noticed this before. This happens from time to time on the internet.
No.
But this, I could point to Bioshock Infinite and go, why would you put up with anything that was even remotely substandard where you have a game as awesome as Bioshock Infinite?
Because Army of Two, Cartel, whatever, just came out. That's why. Duh.
You know, what kind of fool is playing this bio nonsense so you could be playing hardcore dudes wear masks in Army of Two?
Yeah, and fist bump after murdering people.
I still have not found a way to fist bump in that game, and it's really pissing me off. But anyway, let's not talk about Army of Two, because that game is Dookie on the street, and this is Bioshock Infinite, which is golden Dookie in the sky.
Golden Sky Poo.
Good segue.
Thank you. I'm still working on the segues, you guys, so bear with me here. But no, Bioshock Infinite's out, everybody. Like, it seems, you know, we talked about this before, but a lot of times when a game has a really long development, and in this case, Bioshock, it seems like it's been in development for fucking ever. Like, you start to just put it off in your mind forever. Like, the game is never coming out. Like, if you just say, I'm going to see a trailer every so often, maybe there's a developer diary or whatever, but this game is never actually coming out.
Yeah,
and then
it was just a theoretical thing.
Yeah, and then one day, holy shit, you are the reality that you're in, Bioshock Infinite appears, and you're like, what the hell? That game is totally out this week. And then you go play it, and oh my god, is it so goddamn good.
I have to say, I kind of lowered my expectations after the disappointment of Aliens Colonial Marines, but this is nothing like that. This is where long line of development shows that you can make a good game. You spend more time working on it, and it can be good.
I was going to call you out on your logic on that, Nick, that, you know, Aliens Colonial Marines was bad, so that must mean Bioshock Infinite would be bad. But Aliens Colonial Marines was, in fact, bad enough to smear shit all over all of my expectations, hopes, and dreams.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Aliens Colonial Marines, is it was so bad and people are looking forward to it so much. It's actually shaken gamers' faith in the ability to have fun with video games.
In the
exactly
entire
right.
medium. It's like, man, I guess Bioshock Infinite's gonna suck now, and food doesn't taste as good, and I probably have AIDS.
But no, happy day. That is not the case. Bioshock Infinite is out. Motherfucker, I'm going to say it again. I love this game. I love the original Bioshock. I like Bioshock 2. Let's be clear about that. But this game, holy crap. If anybody out there needs to know how do you make a sequel that isn't even a sequel, a spiritual successor, whatever you want to call this thing, god damn. Like, I feel like this game is going to be talked about in the same way that Bioshock is talked about as kind of a landmark between action and storytelling and the way that what you can do with video games, because it tells a hell of a story and it is just ridiculous fun. So let's get in here.
Yeah, I have to say that I wasn't particularly a fan of Bioshock, the original. I enjoyed it. It was a fun game. But this game
burn you.
Just blew my mind.
I'm going to say something that I never thought I would ever say. I'm with Nick.
Yes.
Really?
I like Bioshock. Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Full stop.
All right.
I think it was mind-blowing, but this is like, to me, this is not just a great game. This is like an experience. And whenever you walk away from a game and you continuously think about it days on end afterwards, then I think you've achieved something spectacular.
So what you're saying is that you've gotten religion for Bioshock.
Hell yes. Although not the religion that they have in Colombia, because that's kind of fucked up. But I do worship this game, I'll say that.
All right. Well, that is actually a good segue to jump right into the story of Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite follows Booker DeWitt, Pinkerton agent and survivor of the Wounded Knee massacre, and he has been tasked with going to this floating city in the clouds. I'm not spoiling anything, because if you don't know this is about a floating city, well, then why are you even listening to this review? Go to this floating city in the clouds, get this woman, bring her back to, get the girl, wipe away the debt. And so he goes up into the clouds to this wonderful land, which is great, and everybody's happy, and yay, and oh my god, it's colorful, and it's oh, right.
Make it sound like there are Care Bears up there.
They kind
might
of
as
are.
well, yeah.
You go in there, and it's just like, hey man, you want some popcorn and a hot dog, some root beer, and hey,
And then you encounter Racist Bear.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the game just slaps you in the face with the wet fish of racism, and you're like, oh man, this place was cool until you did that.
Yeah, and then everything goes to shit.
Yeah. That really did come out of nowhere, that whole racism thing, because you're at this beautiful fun fair, and you're by the stage, and this man says, "Isn't she the most beautiful white girl you've ever seen?" I'm like, wait, what did he just say?
That's when I looked at Jeff, and I was like, wait, what? Why the qualifier there?
It was actually when that first happened in that game, and he said that, and it was like this link in my brain going, oh yeah, it's only been white people up here the entire time. Oh no.
See, I noticed that, but I thought it was just a video game thing. I was like, all right, another video game with a bunch of white people. That's okay. You
do have a grizzled protagonist, with a grizzled, unshaven protagonist who comes up in here to fuck shit up. But I'll tell you what, like before you even get to that part in the game, Bioshock Infinite had its hooks into me from the minute that it started out. When you're rowing up in this rowboat and you got two people whose faces you can't see, and they're having some kind of fucked up conversation that doesn't make any goddamn sense. And from the minute that I heard that, I was just like, I gotta know what's happening here. I have to know what's happening here. What the fuck is happening here? I have to figure it out.
The plot was compelling enough that I ended up missing a lot of good stuff in the game. Where it's like, I could go over there and explore, and there's probably some special things and some more hints about the story, but no, I have to move forward. I have to figure out what the hell's going on.
See, no, dude, you've got to explore in this game. There's just so much that I feel that I've already missed out because I was trying to finish the game on time. But there's loads of stuff, like just even the whole racism theme. Like you go to the toilets and there are the toilets just for the black people and Irish, and then you go to the toilets that are just for the white people. Just comparisons like that. All the voxophones everywhere. Yeah, you need to explore in this game. Take your time, enjoy it.
Yeah, I had the opposite experience in that I wouldn't move forward until I was sure I'd eaten all of the garbage out of all the trash cans, listened to every single, speak and spell record player that they had laying around this place until I could there was nothing left that I could do. Like, I went over some areas like a third time just to make sure that there wasn't a single thing that I had missed the entire time. But, as the story plays out, and it's going to be the sort of thing, we have a spoiler cast for more story specific. So, if you already finished the game, you want to hear us talk about it in depth, that's over there. But as the story goes along, things escalate in crazy ways, like coming to a conclusion that kind of has to be seen to be believed. And it's just awesome. But before you get to that, you play through this game. This is a first-person shooter, kind of a first-person shooter / roller coaster / having magic come out of your hands, I guess. Because unlike the original Bioshock, they have integrated the systems from Bioshock 2 that lets you essentially have, I keep calling them tonics. They're not tonics, right? They're
vigors.
Vigors. God, my brain will not make that word happen because I played so much Bioshock. But you can essentially shoot magic out of one hand and machine guns out of your other hand, and then in between you've got a button that lets you take this freaking saw blade thing and shove it in people's faces to really, really delightful, gory consequences.
Oh my god, that was probably my favorite moment of the game. The very first 15 minutes, you arrive in Colombia and you're just looking at this beautiful city, seeing hummingbirds everywhere and children playing in the park. You're like, oh, this is lovely. And you go over to the stage and you're watching this thing going on, and then the copper grabs you and you get this skyhook and then you rip his fucking head off and blood squirts everywhere. That was the moment when, holy shit! Because it looked like a Care Bears movie a second ago. What the hell?
Yeah.
And then you decided to paint it in blood.
Oh god, if there was ever a moment when a video game just grabs you by the balls, that was that moment.
Well, I knew that it perked Jason up. I was watching him when that happened.
I will admit it got my attention from my head all the way down to my crotch region, which was electrified.
You got a murder boner.
That's what they call it.
It's when the game goes from being a barbershop quartet to just totally metal.
Yeah.
The
Barbershop Quartet starts singing Raining Blood.
But there's been a lot of kind of streamlining and improvement of the actual combat system from Bioshock here in Infinite. I hesitate to speak ill of any part of Bioshock Infinite, but one of the things that I really liked in the original Bioshock was that there was a sense of choice that you had where you would harvest the Little Sisters and you would use the atom that you got from them to purchase whichever powers or upgrades that you decided that you wanted. Whereas here, there's a much smaller number of vigors and they're rolled out in a much slower fashion to the point where your choices for what exactly you're going to be using are a little bit chopped down. Like they don't have as much of that passive the passive tonics in Bioshock, whereas here, you pretty much just have your vigors, and then you can upgrade each one of them a couple of times. You have different guns that you can upgrade a few different times, but the upgrades are a little weaker. And then the thing that I really, it's not like I didn't like it. I just there's a system in this game where you get gear, you get shirts and hats and pants and shit like that have different effects. And the boxes, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me, it seemed like the boxes that had those things were like randomized. Like
they were, and I couldn't figure out how to turn one of them off. It was like whenever I punched someone that they would go on fire. And that kind of bugged me, and I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Why would you want to turn that off?
Because I just I want to see people bleed. I don't want to see people burn.
Okay.
You're a strange man.
I was judging you up until you clarified. Now I'm with you. I'm like, all right, I get it. Not my thing, but I get it.
But one thing that I will say is that by simplifying all of those systems a little bit more and making it a little bit more just kind of like what you pick up and what you've got on your hands at the time, it has really streamlined the combat to a point where it's almost a little bit too easy, but it's still really satisfying at the same time. It's not a huge, at least on the medium difficulty level. I didn't get a chance to play on the 1999 mode, which is apparently supposed to be incredibly brutal. But on medium difficulty, if you have any experience with a first-person shooter, this game is pretty much a cakewalk. Like, you have fun, and it's definitely fun to get through those challenges and get past the individual enemies that they throw at you. But I would never say there was a position or the game ever put you in a position where it was just like ridiculously hard. Or there was
I would call it challenging, if anything, but never enough to warrant your frustration, I think.
Yeah. And unlike Bioshock, they do have a system here where when you die, everything that you've done kind of stays done and you get brought back to life, but the enemies get some health back. Like you get half health back, but there's an item you can get to give you full health, which is like, I don't know why you would use anything but that, but, the enemies also get some health back. So there's still kind of one of the problems that a lot of people had with the original Bioshock was that there was no real drawback to dying. That dying felt more like a stumbling block than it did like something you were really trying to avoid. Which I don't know, can work both ways, because in some cases, like I found that by midway through the game, I was so unconcerned with dying that I was just throwing myself whole hog into these fights, trying to use all my powers, use sky hooks and machine guns and grenades and all this crazy shit they had in the game, without any kind of like thought to moving tactically or staying behind cover or any of that kind of stuff, which, I don't know. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Like if you're in this sort of game for challenge, it's maybe not the perfect game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that this game can be very, especially the combat, can be very bland if you don't take advantage of everything that they give you. I actually know people who were playing through it without even using vigors.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly, and not really taking advantage of using the skyline system in combat. It didn't really make a lot of sense, and I didn't really get it. It's like, why would you do it like that? You're missing out on so much. the capacity for a really boring combat mechanic is there. But yeah, if you do that, you're missing out because there actually really is a lot of rich stuff available to you.
Yeah.
I think this is first-person shooter on speed, to be honest, if you take advantage of the skyline system. I mean, it's unlike any other action game I've played. Like, you're just constantly on the move, and you're all-powerful, and it's just fantastic that way.
Which, for those of you who don't actually know this, Skylines that we've been talking about in the game is in various different places. You have these rails that are essentially running around the levels that are, you would think, you see it at certain points of the game are used to like deliver cargo or whatever, but early on you get your melee weapon can actually hook onto these things and you will slide down them kind of like a roller coaster that kind of take you in a track around certain parts of the level, and you can jump on them and jump off of them at any point in time. It's actually, I have to really applaud 2K here, because that mechanic could have been so fiddly that you wouldn't want to use it, but it's so easy to get on and get off of those, and like while you're on the sky rails, they give you a lock-on mechanic, so you don't have to worry about trying to manually aim while you're so it actually ended up being something that once I started using it, it was very addictive, and it added a lot to the combat. Like, it added an element that we don't see a lot of times in games, with just being able to move around these kind of larger combat arenas in a really unique way.
And games have been doing this for a while now, but for the longest time, games were very planar. But with this, this was the first time in a long time that I've really noticed a game that you had to think on all three axes, where you had to look up and down, and on the X, Y, and Z axis, there were enemies coming at you from every possible direction.
Yeah, there were also parts. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, I was actually quite concerned that the skyline system wasn't going to work, because they'd shown it in previous trailers where it was just cinematic. I'm like, okay, that looks cool, but are we actually going to be able to do that? No, you can do that. What you see in the trailer, you get.
Yeah. Yeah, and it actually factors a lot into there's some combat arenas where you actually have different segments that are separated, that are joined by this sky hook, so you'll actually end up having to use them to travel around. But enough. We talked about that enough. It's awesome. It totally rules. But you know what else totally rules is Elizabeth, who may get my vote for best NPC helper character in any video game ever of all time.
Yeah. Oh my god! I was so worried that it would just have to be nothing but escort missions with her, where you'd have to worry.
They tell you
up
front.
You don't have to. Yeah, she is actually helpful. I've never experienced a game where the AI is actually helpful and you can rely on them in a combat situation. I want to take this girl into Call of Duty and every single first-person shooting game from now on, because I need ammo.
Yeah,
and she's there.
I kept wanting to ask her. I'm like, hey, Elizabeth, did you ever play Eco? Because you are not like that bitch at all.
Yeah, so Elizabeth is essentially the female NPC character that you sent in there. It's not really a big surprise. She's been in a lot of different trailers. You end up traveling with her through a good chunk of the game, and a lot of the actual story of Bioshock kind of boils down to the relationship between Booker DeWitt and Elizabeth, and it's interesting that it actually does change and grow as the game goes on. But yeah, like you guys were saying, from a gameplay perspective, like, god damn, is she useful. Like, I thought, just like you guys, I thought it was going to be like Counter-Strike hostages and shit, that she'd be running around like, no, honey, stop running on the wall. Stop running on, oh god damn it. But I didn't even notice it until about halfway through having her, that anytime I started getting low on salt, which is your magic mana, essentially, that she'd be like, hey, salt! And I'd be like, what? And she'd throw you this thing, and boom, you got a bunch of salt back.
Sweetheart,
low on
I didn't
ammo.
even notice I was low. Thank you. You're amazing. It's like the ever-present waiter who's like, tucking your napkin in and refilling your water.
Which actually, it's funny, because as I started being able to rely on her more and more, I started using like the powers in the game, which a lot of times in a video game, if you're old video game people like me, I tend to hoard the magic for the boss fights or whatever. But here, she was so useful at keeping your magic filled up that I just, at a certain point, was just like, all right, fuck it, I'm off the hook. Like, everybody gets everything. You all get the full complement of death that I can rain down upon you.
I also thought it was quite cool that even when you weren't fighting anybody, when you were just taking in the scenery, that she wasn't just standing around like, some dumb AI. Like, she would, look at things for herself, sit down, lean against a wall. Like, it made her feel more like an actual human being rather than this artificial character.
Not just that, but she would find useful shit. Like, she'd say, there's a lockpick over here. I'd be like, holy crap, I didn't even see that. Thank you, Elizabeth, for pointing that out. I will say, though, there were a few times where she'll will pick up money and toss it to you, and it's a kind of an automated thing where she'll flip the coin to you and you'll catch it. And there were a couple times in the game where she did that, but she was standing like right next to me. I was like,
yeah, I have to say that every time she tosses you something, there's that animation of you catching it, holding it up, and looking at it.
Yeah,
that got a little tiresome.
Like, dude, it's a quarter. You've got 1 billion of them in your pockets. All right.
Yeah, I wanted to say, all right, listen, sweetheart. Just hang on to whatever you're finding. If I need something, I'll ask you, hey, do you have any money? You don't have to flip every single coin over to me. Because we're trying to run for our lives here.
At least she wasn't rummaging through the trash like, I found another hot dog. Do you want it?
Exactly. Yeah. Does it have mustard on it? Because mustard makes me gassy. I can't.
But yeah, so Elizabeth, wonderful, and her relationship with Booker, like I said, factors heavily into the storyline in ways that are just phenomenal by the time you get to the end of the game. And it's really just, it's wonderful to watch, and it gives all of the characters far, far more depth than they could have had otherwise. Because it could have just been kind of your typical AI following you around kind of nonsense. The only slight knock that I have about that was that, man, she is tearing shit up and keeping you supplied and all this stuff. And those enemies, they don't seem to be able to even see her. Like,
yeah.
I never saw her wrestling with a dude or hitting a guy in the face with a hammer or anything like that. And
well, I always pass it off as like they're trying to kill you and they're trying to capture her, so she's not an immediate threat. So
well, she's she's. It's made clear from early on that she's exceptionally important.
Right.
So. I just chalked it up to that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not the sort of thing that will break the game by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, something that you maybe notice while you're playing it. The other thing, though, that Elizabeth can do that factors heavily into the actual gameplay is open up tears that give you ammo, turrets, hooks that you can hook onto, all this kinds of stuff that once again ends up just adding layering another layer of, oh my god, you are so goddamn useful, like, please just come to other video games with me because there wasn't cover here, now there's totally cover here. I need some health. Oh look, there's a whole box full of med kits that you could just boop turn into reality. Now they're here.
And that added another thing to consider because you can only have one open at any given time. Mm-hmm. And so you're switching back and forth, like, okay, now I need the health, open this up. Okay, now I need to go over here. But if I activate where I can get access to this gun, it's going to make my cover go away. And so you really had to consider, it's like, do I really want to have her open up this tear so that my turret that she pulled from another tear will go away?
Yeah. I did like, though, that just the implication of the fact that this woman is shredding reality just so that you can get a turret. Like, that she's just ripping time-space a new asshole because I need a shotgun real bad. Right now. It's very important.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's Elizabeth. The other thing I guess that really struck me about this game, and I think it's going to be something that maybe everybody's going to have to take equally, but I don't know about you guys, but this was a just incredibly good looking game. Like, super striking with its art design and the sound, especially the music, which I just remembered that we forgot to talk about something about the music on our spoiler cast, but shit.
Oh, right.
But yeah, the music and the look of the game and the different versions of Columbia, the different like states that you see Columbia in over the course of the game, are just all fantastic, and it's such a breath of fresh air in a medium where we have so many dull gray walls and military installations and things like that, to see this place that's just full of like color and all this interesting architecture that you haven't seen before. I don't know, you guys, it really
I hate to
agree with you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I completely agree with you. There are loads of little hidden treasures in this game that breathe life into this. Like, one of my favorite moments is the very early on in the game. So if you turn a certain corner, you see like a floating barbershop quartet singing. Mm-hmm. And it's just so, it's just so amazing just like listen to them sing, and it's got nothing to do with the game. You can carry on with the rest of the story, but I listened to the whole goddamn song and I loved it, and I was singing it to myself the rest of the game.
Yeah, and it I hate to resort to hyperbole in this respect, but the art design is really unlike anything we've ever seen in a game. You've never quite seen a setting like that. It's gorgeous. It's fully realized. It really is a work of art.
Mm-hmm. And moving between, I mean, it would be easy for them to kind of just, for it to all kind of look samey, but there's a lot of different places that you go within this area that have kind of their own little flavor, their own personality. Like there's a beach. How the fuck is there a beach on a sky, a floating city in the sky? Where's all that water going? Where did it come from?
You see where the water goes. My only question is, you see the water go off the edge of the little island.
Right.
So I'm guessing it goes to the land below. So how do people not notice that there's a fucking floating city in the sky? They're getting seawater dumped on them.
As the people of Indianapolis are like, would you move Columbia already? God damn it. It's like Noah's Ark down here and shit. God damn. But yeah, it's all of the design here is absolutely fantastic. And, I mean, I've seen it. I played on the Xbox 360. I thought it looked great. It's the sort of thing where when original Bioshock came out, it looked really good, but there was a question as kind of the PlayStation version being a little bit more washed out or whatever. Nick, you played the PlayStation version. Did you have anything in the graphics or the sound that you could say was not just top notch?
No, I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I mean, I've definitely seen videos online of this version on the PC with ultra high graphics, and I'm in complete agreement with everybody. Like, if you have an opportunity to play Bioshock Infinite on the PC, you have to do it. But by no means does it make this game inferior on Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. It's still a gorgeous looking game. I just think you can get the full experience with it on the PC.
Okay. So I don't know. Do you think there's anything else that people need to know about this? I mean, there is no multiplayer in the game, so when you play through the game, the game is very dense. There's little sub-quests that you can go in and pick up things and bring them back to other places to open up kind of caches of equipment. So there is some reason to go back and play through the game a second time, to maybe catch everything if you missed some of the voxophones or the little, what do they call those things where you stick your face on them and you look into them?
The kinetoscope.
Forget.
Kinetoscope, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I don't think there's any reason not to revisit this game. Like, I would be simply happy to revisit this game just to experience the story again, because, like I said before, this is not just a game, it is an experience, and it's something that we probably won't be seeing again for a while. Yeah. I think game this unique.
I'll tell you one thing that really struck me about this game that we maybe haven't zeroed in on too much was that, it is sometimes you have games where you have characters that are so interesting and have some actual goddamn depth to them outside of like, you killed my father, or like, I gotta get blah, blah, blah going back. They're like, this game, everybody from Booker DeWitt, Elizabeth, Zachary Comstock, especially the Lutessas. Oh God, I would play a whole game I would have a wallpaper, screensaver, if people use screensavers anymore, that was just those two having weird conversations. Like, I goddamn love listening to the two of them, but just so many great characters in this game that where they probably could have gotten away with having less rich characterization. They probably could have gotten away with having, without pushing that stuff to the place that it is right now. But by having these characters that are just so fascinating and interesting that you want to kind of listen to, set in this weird mystery world that you want to figure out, like, it just creates this desire to play the game and just, I gotta play it all. Gotta consume it.
You need to settle down.
I do.
Well, we're right on board with you, mate. We completely agree.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get some ratings for this thing, because I don't think I can lick its butthole anymore. Nick, how about you?
Well, I'm happy to say I've got to give this game a better than sex. Like, it really was I really had a wonderful time playing it. I felt that this game had great pacing. It knew when to pick up the action when I wanted it to. It knew when to slow down and give me time to breathe and to experience Colombia and have a look around and see what this world has to offer. It's probably one of the most positive experiences I've ever had playing a game in the last few years.
All right, Jason?
I think it's got a lot of replayability, and which is something I usually don't care for. Even without multiplayer, it's got a lot of replayability. It's a very fully realized, beautiful world. All things are in service of the story, which I think is very good. It's a very good story. I wasn't floored by the game. I wasn't just blown away by it. At no point was I just like, just stunned and staggered by its execution. There was a lot that I just really, really liked. It is a fantastic game, and most of my explanation here is really me justifying why I'm not giving it a better than sex, but I will give it a very high full price.
Okay. Well, I, for one, am going to lean a little bit more Nick's direction. I'm giving this game better than sex.
No.
I think that I totally am, man. This is the sort of experience that I look for. Oh, wait, that was a sarcastic no, wasn't it? This is the sort of experience that I look for in a video game. Like, it had my attention from start to finish. There was never a point where I wanted to put the game down or stop playing it. This is a sort of game that I will pick up and play over and over again just because I like the experience of the game, like the combat. I'd love to go back and try out different vigors and different weapons in different places. I'd like to try doing some of the other choices that you're given throughout the game, even though, they're probably minimal results. But yeah, there's just so much to look at. There's so much to figure out. There's so much to experience in this game that I think it is, so far this year, it is the best game I've played in 2013. Right. So I'm giving it a better
Just
than
bring
sex.
the shitstorm, because I didn't give it a better than sex. Put me up on the stage and throw a baseball at me.
That's right. Hey, I got number 77. That's my lucky number.
What is that?
It's terror. Something I can bring into this world.
I don't really understand what I just saw back there. It sure as hell looks like a shortcut to getting us killed.
Mr. DeWitt? I think we've got trouble. Catch!
That'll do.
Get the girl! Let me go!
Tear it down. Tear it all down.